Hi, I'm Rip Tompkins with Arbor Master Training. We're here today to look at some different climbing techniques when working in palm trees. We're going to look at a couple of different techniques, but both cases they're going to be very safe techniques. Before we get started with the work and our job briefing, I wanted to look a little bit at the equipment we're going to be using today. First of all, we'll have our proper personal protective equipment: head protection, eye protection, hearing protection. If we're going to be using chainsaws, we'll be using chainsaw protective pants or chaps. We also have a tree climbing harness here. This is a suspension work positioning harness with a work positioning lanyard. I've already done a check of all my connecting links. I've got some different carabiners here. I've got a handsaw, a couple of webbing loops, got a little first aid kit. We may be using some climbing spikes today. So we've got a pair of climbing spikes. We've checked them. These are pull gaffs, got upper pads, they look good, all the screws and nuts and bolts are tight. Got a couple different types of climbing lines. Here we've got climbing lines with the climbing hitch already tied onto it. We've checked the hitch, checked our connecting links again. So we have a couple different climbing lines. We're going to be using a throw line in one case to access the upper part of the palm. So I've got a throw lines in here. We've got a big shot, a big offset slingshot that we may use to set the throw line. I've got a couple of different types of choking lanyards. Now these are something where I can be, it's kind of a false crotch that will choke against the palm, whether we're ascending up or working from the top down. This will give us a quick escape route out of the tree at any time. We have some other hardware, a pulley with a work positioning, a carabiner in here. Check to make sure that's all good. A sling for the base of the tree that we'll probably use to attach this small porter wrap. And I've also got a work positioning harness here as well, because while Martine may be doing most of the climbing, I want to make sure that I'm here just in case there's an emergency. I could potentially go up and help him out. Now all of the climbing and all the work we're going to be doing here today is going to be adherence to the ANSI Z133 standards. This is very important. These are the standards we use for safe work practices in the tree care industry. So I think we've taken a look at all the equipment. Everything looks good to go. Martine, if you want to come in, maybe we'll do our job briefing and do a quick hazard assessment of the tree. All right, Martine, let's do a little bit of a job briefing here. So basically today we're here to work on this palm. You're going to be doing the climbing predominantly, and you're going to go up, and we've got a lot of dead fronds here hanging down this skirt. We want to trim that up. Before we do any climbing, of course, we want to make sure we do a hazard assessment of the tree. Also, just for emergency preparedness, we've got a first aid kit in the truck, and I've checked. We have cell coverage here, and we're working today at 23445 North 19th Avenue in Phoenix, in case I do need to call emergency services. So we're in good shape there. Doing a hazard assessment of the site, the area. There are no power lines nearby, so that's good. I've checked with the owners. There's no buried power lines in here as well. Doing an assessment, a hazard assessment of the palm itself. As you can see, we do have a lot of dead skirts up there, and there are some fronds that look like they may break off, and so we want to be careful for that.
Yeah, it seems like they're ready to come down, so we need to be really careful right there.
Okay. You know, just doing an inspection around the base of the tree. Of course, it seems nice and firm here, which is good because it doesn't seem to be overwatered. That can be a problem sometimes with palms and lead to root rot. We do have a little bit of hourglass shaping here, but it doesn't seem to be too bad. Of course, we want to be looking for penciling up near the top, just underneath the crown. That's a sign that there may be issues below the ground. Before you do any climbing, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do a pull test. You'll be setting a line up in the top of the palm. That will be able to pull on it, make sure you got a good sturdy attachment point up there, and also a back up here to see how strong the roots are underneath the ground, because obviously without digging in there we can't really see that. We also want to be looking for cavities and cracks along the way. So I see around the base here everything looks good. As you're going up, you're also going to be wanting to check for that.
I'll make sure I'll check on my way up right there.
Yeah, because these palms don't compartmentalize, so we want to make sure we're looking for the cavities. Other than that, and the fact that, you know, we got this dead stuff up there, we're going to need to be careful. I think we're in pretty good shape, so about ready to get to work, eh?
Yes.
Okay, what we're going to be doing here is setting a line through the top of the crown of the palm to set the climbing line. To do that, we're going to use this throw line. It's 1.75 millimeter spectra line with this shot pouch. Martine's going to be using the big shot here to launch the shot pouch and the throw line up through the top of the crown so that we can set the climbing line up through there. He's got to make sure he fires it up far enough in case the throw line sits down in between some of the fronds and gets jammed up. So he'll be firing it right up through the top there, and it'll come down on the other side. Then we'll attach the access line and pull that up and through. So you about ready to get going?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to step out of the way here.
Is that clear? Throw in.
All clear. Okay, we've removed the shot pouch from the throw line, and I'm attaching the throw line into this eye splice at the end of this 1/4" amp steel. We need to use a small diameter line, but strong enough, because tying on a full 1/2" line may not pass through the fronds at the top of the palm. So we've secured that on there, and now we can pull that up and through. All right, Martine, you got it?
Got it.
Okay, take her up. Stand back here. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, now that we've pulled the amp steel up to the top of the palm, you note that there's an eye splice here at the end of the amp steel. Martine's going to use that to girth hitch into this double locking carabiner and then attach a rescue pulley. Of course, both of these pieces of equipment meet our ANSI standards as far as strength and ratings. And then he's going to put his climbing line into that rescue pulley. One of the nice things about this is we're going to pull this rescue pulley up to the top of the palm, secure the amp steel off at the base of the palm into this porter wrap. And using this system, Martine is going to be able to ascend safely while tied in with his climbing line, and also be able to descend quickly if he needed to. You can see how the climbing line runs nicely through that rescue pulley. So this is a much safer technique than a lot of people are using. Okay, ready to pull that up? All right, you got a handle on that? A lot of friction here.
Yes.
How are we doing?
A little bit more.
A little bit more?
Just a bit. Right there. Good.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to secure this into this porter wrap here, pass it through the retention bar over the pin in the back, and take numerous wraps with the amp steel. The nice thing about this system is if Martine were to run into any problems while ascending up into the palm and be unable to descend himself, I can come over here and detach this and actually lower the whole system down. So we've got an additional backup here. Again, always trying to think about emergency preparedness. All right, so that's good and secured. All right, at this point, we probably want to do a bit of a pull test, right, to make sure that our palm here is nice and secure, and it looks like we've got it in a really good spot up there in the top of the palm. All right. So Martine, I'm going to let you come out here and give a little bit of a tug on this. While you're doing that, I'm going to be watching the base here, the ground, make sure we don't see any heaving. Obviously, we're going to also be seeing the flex in the palm and make sure it's good and sturdy. So,
okay.
All right, you good? Nice and easy. Give some nice gentle pulls on that. It looks pretty good here at the base. I don't see any heaving or anything. How's it looking up top there?
Well, it's just natural movement right there. It moves, but it's normal.
That's good, and you're in a good, secure spot.
Yes.
So that's nice. All right, I think you're about ready to go up. While we like using this small diameter amp steel because it's easier to pull it up through the top of the crown of the palm, we could use a 1/2" climbing line and anchor it off at the base of the palm, and that would be equally safe to using this amp steel, as long as it meets the standards and meets the ratings. Okay, now Martine's climbing line is set up in the top of the palm. So one of the nice things about this is as he ascends, and if he needs to descend, he'll be tied in the whole time. That'll also make it so that he can work while he's on his way, because you need to be tied in when you're working, whether you're using a chainsaw or a handsaw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, I'm going to tail Martine's line. So I'm going to take the slack up in his line as he pulls himself up with his climbing line, and just assist him up into the top of the palm. Okay? All right, Martine, I'm coming over to tail your line. Go back out and talk to the camera. Hold up a second. Okay, now that Martine has ascended to the top of the palm, I wanted to discuss again some of the advantages of this system. By being tied in from the top, you saw how he was able to climb up and over the top and the outside of the skirt. One of the biggest problems that climbers run into is the skirts letting go and sloughing down on top of them. And another nice thing about this system is because he's tied in with his climbing line the whole time, that would allow him to ascend quickly at any time out of the palm. Maybe he runs into a bee's nest, he cuts himself, or any other number of emergencies that might pop up. He'll be able to quickly descend out using this system. You can see here, using his climbing system, he can come all the way down to the base of the ground and get down nice and quickly. So another advantage of this system. Now we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios using climbing spikes. Now as arborists, we do not recommend using climbing spikes on palms or any other type of tree because they wound the tree. But many people do it. So we want to look at a couple of scenarios where it can be done safely. In this situation right here, again, we've set the climbing line up in the top of the palm, so Martine will be top rope the whole way. And then again, he can work as he's going, and again, if he needed to descend quickly, he can. So I'm going to go over and tail his line as he climbs. Okay, Martine. About ready to go. I'm going to tail your line for you. Okay, right now Martine's going to demonstrate what is most commonly done by a lot of climbers when ascending palms, and that's going up just using the work positioning lanyard. The limitation of this technique is, while he is secured, which by the ANSI standards is okay, a couple of things. If he were to have his spurs kicked out with only the lanyard around the palm, good chance he's going to slide all the way down to the ground. Another thing, if he goes up and wants to work in the tree, either using a handsaw or a chainsaw, technically he's not tied in. So that goes against the ANSI standards. A third thing is, if he needs to get out of the palm quickly, again, let's say bees, he gets cut, or some other emergency, he does not have a quick way to descend to the ground. So you can see he just went up a little bit with the lanyard there. Now we're going to show you a better system. Okay, now we're going to use a different system. This is an adjustable friction saver or a choking lanyard. It involves a piece of uniline, a stiff cord with a ring at one end, and then there's a prusik with a small ring that adjusts along. What Martine's going to do is he's going to pass this around the tree and then run his climbing line through the rings. So basically, he's being tied in. So as he ascends the tree, he'll adjust this friction saver so that if his weight were to go into it, it would bring the rings and they'd choke onto the trunk. Again, if his spurs were to kick out, this would keep him from sliding down the palm. If he needed to make a quick exit, he's tied in with his climbing line, he can descend quickly down to the ground. Or if he needs to stop and work on the way up, once again, he's tied in. All right, ready to go? Okay, so he's got the uniline lanyard and his work positioning lanyard around the trunk as he goes up. Now, if he needed to stop at any time and descend, he'd be able to because he's tied in there. Well, let's say he ran into an emergency right now. If he needed to, he could unclip his lanyard and come right down to the ground. So that's one of the really nice features of this system. All right, you want to go back up and then work your way up to the fronds. Okay. Okay, I'm clear. Again, it's very common for climbers to just go up and cut with either their handsaw or their chainsaw while just using a work positioning lanyard. Because Martine is tied in, now he can go to work and do it safely. Additionally, as per the ANSI standards, if he did need to use a chainsaw, he would have those two forms of fall protection. He'd have his climbing line tied in and he'd have his work positioning lanyard as a means of being secured. And again, if he ran into a problem here, this should allow him to get down out of the palm quickly. All right. Okay, we've looked at 3 different systems for climbing and working in palms. Really, the first system we saw is our preferred method. That way, we're top roped in from the top of the palm and we're not using spikes, and that way the climber can go up and over the skirt so that he's not working from the bottom up and work from the top down. The second method we saw, again, while not advised because of the spikes, once again he is top roped from the top of the tree, so he is able to get over the top of the skirts without having to work from underneath. And then thirdly, when you're just going up from the ground, one of the limitations on this type of palm where we do have these skirts is having to work from the bottom up. Now, at least he did have a climbing line in, so he was tied in, so you could see he was able to get down quickly, but again, that's not the preferred method because of the potential of those skirts letting go and coming down on top of the climber.